Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Enchantment of Eternity. So usually on my channel, I've been covering lots of other TV shows other than just Star Trek. Recently, I'd wait till the season's over and then talk about the season and do a video review for that. But I am just too involved and too laser focused on getting these Star Trek episode reviews done because I just want to get through them. It's going to take several years for me to get to the end of Enterprise, and so I'm just trying to get those done as soon as possible. So kind of all of the other shows and stuff has kind of fallen by the wayside. Although I do plan on doing a review for Severance season 2 when that finishes. But usually I do one for like the Marvel shows and the what's the other thing? Star Wars, yeah, the Star Wars shows and the Marvel shows and all the random shows that I'm watching. I'm still gonna cover Game of Thrones stuff week to week. I don't know if I'm gonna do a video review and a live stream like I did for House of Dragon season 2. I'm probably going to do one or the other, and that's probably going to be a live stream. Although I haven't decided if I'm going to do live streams for the Night of the Seven Kingdom one. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's future stuff. So tonight, I'm here by my lonesome, just me, and hopefully I'll have some people in the chat joining me to sort of join in the conversation to talk about the shows that I've been watching recently or the ones that recently aired. So I'm going to be talking about Skeleton Crew, Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Season 1, I guess we'll call it, but there's no indication there will be a season 2. And then What If, season 3, Marvel's What If. And then Squid Game, season 2. And Silo, seasons 1 and 2, since I've watched them both, binge watched both of them recently. And also going to talk about the first 2 episodes of Severance, season 2. Maybe talk a little bit about season 3 as well. So this is going to be a full-on spoilers discussion for all these shows. Now, I don't think it's likely that everyone watching has seen all these shows. So if you're watching this in the archives, well, there's a little helpful hint for you. I'll put a timestamps in the description so you can jump to the show I'm talking about. So that way, if there's a show you haven't seen, you're not interested in hearing about, or you don't want spoiled for you, you can just jump to the timestamp. However, if you are watching this live, I got another little trick up my sleeve. So you're going to have to just mute me or, come back or pause the video, go somewhere else, not paying attention. But how you will know when you come back if I finish talking about the show you don't want spoiled for you is neat backgrounds. So there. So I'll have it in the background so you can see visually if I'm still talking about this show or if I'm talking about the next show. And yeah, so I'm gonna and I might talk about Section 31 movie a little bit. I released my review for that yesterday, but there's a few things I forgot to mention in my review. And of course, if anyone shows up and has questions about any of these shows or anything or any random thing, Star Trek or whatever, you feel free to interact. Although I might have to finish my thought before I interact with you. But yeah, so let's talk about this one first. Hold on, I want to see. Yeah, so that is not backwards. Okay, cool. Because I was trying to get it so that the background wasn't backwards for you. And Aaron, hey, how's it going? Yeah, cool system. Yeah, thanks. Trying to come up with something. So yeah, all right. So I'm gonna commence with the talk about Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Spoilers for the whole season. And the funny thing about this season is I was really, really enjoying it. Like towards the beginning and the middle. Now, it felt like I don't think Dave Filoni was involved in this one, but it felt like a Dave Filoni Star Wars, like a cartoon. And this is, I think, a lot of people, and this is just my humble opinion, sort of hype up the Clone Wars and the other cartoons like the Bad Batch more and make them, better in their minds than it actually was, because and Rebels, because I watched them all recently and they had a lot of episodic episodes where they just went on the adventure and did some irrelevant shit, especially the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars has a ton of episodes which were really throwaway and didn't really amount to anything. And so when a live action show like Mandalorian or Skeleton Crew does that, people are like, "Oh, this is shitty. They're just going off on some side quest adventures, and this is not like the Clone Wars," but it actually is. In fact, it made me think that, in fact, that's, I think, the problem is that it's too much like the Clone Wars, and they're doing too much of that episodic, let's go on these side quest adventure format. And Skeleton Crew did do that a couple times, but I didn't actually mind because I was kind of expecting that. For me, that's kind of par for the course for these type of Star Wars shows, and I've gotten used to it. Um, let's see. Hey, doing good, thanks. Hope you are as well. Oh yeah, thanks, Aaron. thanks for popping in. But anyway, so yeah, Skeleton Crew. So I didn't mind it. What I did really like about it was the mysteries and how they were sort of setting up, like what is at Adam and how come no one's heard of it, and had the pirates want to invade it, and who were the pirates that tried to do it eventually, what happened to them. And I thought they were building up a lot of nice mysteries. I thought the characters were interesting enough. It's obvious that they were doing a Goonies, for a Star Wars version of Goonies. But here's the thing, like, I haven't watched Goonies recently myself, but I saw, if you watch my sister's channel, uh, Alyssa Jean, she a couple years ago did a nostalgia lane. Used to do these nostalgia lanes where she'd go back and watch movies she hadn't seen in decades and years, and think if they hold up. And her thing for Goonies are like, no, this doesn't hold up at all. It's just a bunch of kids screaming and it's hard to watch. Now, and I'll take her word for it. And because, to be honest, I was never a fan of Goonies. Well, can't say never. Let me rephrase that. I wasn't a fan of Goonies at an age that I can remember, because maybe I think I have a vague recollections of liking it when I was like 4 years old or something like that, and I don't remember. So I don't remember. I wouldn't say anything. I remember like a few things about the movie, like there was a pirate ship involved somewhere. There's these group of friends that were, I know Sean Astin was in it, and that dude who was in Loki season 2. But yeah, other than that, like, I'm not a fan of Goonies, but I can tell like that they were trying to do it. But I think some of the people were like, "Oh, this, they just try to be like Goonies, but they fail. It's more kids like." I'm like, but Goonies itself was very kid orientated. Like, you just think otherwise because you got your nostalgia glasses. Like, if you saw it for the first time now, you would find it very highly annoying, a bunch of kids being annoying as well. So I think that this probably improved on it, but I can't say for sure. But anyway, the point is, I was enjoying this show. I was really into it. I thought it was absolutely amazing. And I was invested in the mysteries. And then the finale happened, and now I think the show sucks. It's funny because I always thought I would give it like a 9, 8 or 9, maybe not 10. Probably would be too overdoing it, but no. I know they did their episodic side quests, and there's the one where they met these group of like mercenary, like child army or whatever, which was kind of just a waste of an episode. But I didn't really mind it that much because it still pushed the story forward. And I thought the story was really interesting. I thought the relationship with the Jude Law's character Jod and his relationship with the kids was very interesting. But then the end, like, I thought they were making him kind of a complex, dynamic character. And it's obvious he was kind of just tricking the kids and leading them along for his own purposes. But when they had him flip and just turn like flat out evil, I thought that was You know, I didn't mind that, but the fact that he stayed evil and was just two-dimensional mustache twirling and he wasn't more dynamic, and at the last finale it's just like ha ha ha, evil, evil, evil. I'm like, that's not like really interesting. It would have been more interesting if it was, and I mean, he could still be an antagonist, but it was more interesting if he was more complex and it was more something more dynamic. But that's not what bothered me. What really bothered me is that they didn't really explain at Adden. Like, yeah, they found out, and this is spoilers coming in, but they found out that it was like all androids controlling everything. And I think it's by watching videos, I sort of got the hint that it was like one of these few planets that used to create money for the Republic, and they were like hidden, so when the Republic fell they kind of got lost in the shuffle and no one really knew about them and it became a legend or whatnot. But I wanted to know more about um like I wanted to know more about it. I like thought there would be something a deeper like mystery of what, because that pirate who originally crashed on the planet, whose ship the kids were flying in, they like showed a log and they wouldn't show his face. I'm like, oh my god, they're not showing his face. That means he's like someone he know. Maybe he's someone on the planet or something like that. But no, it's nothing. And the way that John is so easily just destroyed the main android and took over, and the pirates all took over and fighting everyone. I just thought it was goofy. I think they just turned it into like, I know it was always like a Goonies fun, kids adventure thing, but I think they just went too much into that, and that's all it was. Where they had the potential, like they could have done so many interesting things, and I, god damn it, wanted to see what happened after, like when, and then the fact that the New Republic showed up, they were just like, all she had to do was call that owl lady and she just got the New Republic. And like, how could you trust the New Republic and how could you trust that owl lady? Maybe she was full of shit. I mean, but no, the New Republic just came in and swoop in and saved the day, and they fucking ended, and I don't know what the hell happened. Like, I wanted to see like the New Republic, like trying to explain to him, and then the people at Adam explaining, because they weren't really clear on what their great work was and exactly the stuff that these kids were supposed to find out once they graduated. Like, I wanted more, 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 more. And the fact that they didn't give it to me like disappointed the fuck out of me. Like, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, there was so much potential for it to be good. Instead, they just been like, now let's just do fun, wacky kid shit and end the season. Now, possible that they're planning on the season 2 and they're withholding this information for season 2, but I doubt it. And even if that is the case, then fuck them. They shouldn't do that. I'm sick of this. Is the problem with modern shows. The fucking Acolyte had the same issue where, we'll save all this stuff for the next season, and Ahsoka did that as well. I'm like, no one can ever make a self-contained season of fucking television anymore. At least Disney can. Apple Plus shows seem to do a better job at that. But god damn it, it's a huge fault with modern television and modern movies. They're like, let's just leave everything up in the air so they can be hooked for the next season. But then, so like Acolyte, the next season never fucking came. From what I heard, the ratings of this show was even worse than the Acolyte. So even if they were planning a second season, I seriously doubt it's gonna happen. So yeah, I'm just pissed. I'm just fed up with this bullshit, with this era of modern television where they always had to withhold all this information. And if they were never planning on with explaining this is always supposed to be ending, then still fuck them, because they set up these amazing mysteries and these interesting possibilities and concepts, and you don't explore any of them. Instead, you just make a two-dimensional villain, this evil pirates trying to take over the planet. Like, that's not what interests me. I mean, there's so much potential for this to be so much better. But anyway, so that's all I gotta say about the Skeleton Crew. So let's move on to the next show. Let me see if I can find what is the next show I'm going to talk about here. So if you can see that, hold on. Speaking of disappointments, um, God, yeah, this is easily one of the more disappointing Marvel seasons of Marvel television. Now, I am not one of those people that say that Marvel sucks now and the MCU is terrible. If you saw my top 10 shows of the year, you would see that Agatha All Along was my number one. I absolutely love that. I think Marvel can put out some really great, amazing stuff still, but they're less consistent in quality. I will say that. It's been like a hit or miss kind of situation. And I've loved the first two seasons of What If, but they weren't as good as I um, hope they would be, because for me, like, I used to read the What If comic growing up, and it was always like, ooh, what if the X-Men's lost Inferno, or what if Spider-Man lost Secret Wars, or what if, they would take a scenario that we know about and like say, what if this happened differently, like, is and then you see the parallel universes, and that was always very appealing to me. But the first couple of seasons of especially the first season of What If, was always, most of the episodes were, what if this character was actually that character, and they did that like 3 or 4 times. And what if Thor was a party guy? Like, that's not really that like what I want out of What If. Um, and then they did that one where the Avengers all got killed, and I liked that one. And like Hank Pym, it turned out to be the big enemy. But and season two was more variable. Like, I can't remember if I liked it better than season one. I think I kind of did. But yeah, season three was just awful. So, they completely, so all the season was terrible comedy episodes that weren't funny, or just off the walls, like having a whole bunch of characters that you don't really care about, sort of, in dumb sort of scenarios. Like, first of all, they had that one with the sort of the Voltron episode to start it out, where they were like, and I heard, like, I was watching some channel like Screen Crutch or something, and they were saying, oh yeah, the season was bad, but they had that one episode was good. No, that episode was probably the worst of the season. God, I thought that was so incredibly boring, with the giant Hulk monsters and the Voltron type thing. Like, that episode sucked. Like, I think it was easily the worst of the season. Like, I absolutely had zero interest. It was like torture to sit through that shit. And and then they had, I can't even remember the other shit they had, but they had a bunch of, like, oh, they had the Agatha thing with the dude from the Eternals, and I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it was kind of goofy, I guess. Oh yeah, the Hollywood thing with yeah, like, not Tony Stark, his father or grandfather. Yeah, okay, Howard Stark, or no, was it? I can't remember. Whoever the fuck it was, I didn't like it. Wasn't really the end. But the problem is, after they did that, was a goofy, funny episode. Then they did the one with the Winter Soldier and Red Guardian, who they seem to think Red Guardian is way funnier than he actually is. Like, he's not that funny. And then so that was a goofy episode. And after that, they did the Howard the Duck and Darcy having a child, and that was also goofy. It's like they just did all these. This whole season was either goofy bullshit or dumb concepts you don't care about, like that Western. Like, I with what's his name, Shang-Chi. Like that was I could not give two shits about that, and it was kind of just ripping off. Like the intro was the Watcher was like, oh, the further you get out in the multiverse, it becomes less what if and more what the. Like it's just weird shit, and I'm like, yeah, but that's not what I want out of this fucking show. I don't want to say, hey, let's just do weird, funny shit because it looks cool. I want to see specific scenarios. Now they did do one specific scenario, which what if the Eternal, what's this thing called, the not Sentinels, but the things that Celestials, yeah. What if they actually from the Eternals? What if it actually destroyed the Earth? Uh, and people were still living on the fragments, but someone pointed out, like, if Earth was shattered like that, there would be no atmosphere. Like, there would be no air to breathe. But whatever. Like, I don't know. But it's Marvel. Whatever. You just go with that shit. But still, it had featured a whole bunch of characters I didn't really care about or know very well, and I mean, it was okay, I guess. And then the through storyline about the Watcher, like, interfering in the other big Watchers, like deciding to like attack him. And the final two episodes was, brought back Peggy Carter again. And there seemed this superhero team with Peggy Carter, Storm, and what's her face, Kohori, or whatever her name was from season 2. And then the grown-up daughter of Howard Duck and Darcy, and they were just thrown together. There's nothing like explaining how they're a team. They're acting like this huge team. You have no connection to them, and then we get just a bunch of fire blasts and shit in the final episode, which is a bunch of typical Marvel energy fight bullshit that I don't care about. So this is a bad season. I think in my top 10, I gave this a 6 out of 10. If that's true, then I was being too generous. I think it's more like a 4 out of 10. And even that, I think, is a little generous. Skeleton Crew is also 4 out of 10 if you're interested. Anyway, yeah, Aaron's saying I too was a bit let down by What If. Yeah. Oh, that seems to be what most people are saying. Most people tend to agree that this season was disappointed. And Aaron's also saying I too would have preferred stories about more familiar characters. Yeah, I heard someone speculate that they were just trying to promote the new stuff. I mean, you got some new characters, but you should intersperse it with well-known characters. But yeah, and someone else also, I heard someone point out that the problem with What If all of the seasons, but it's got exasperated in season 3, is that they're turning into a serialized show where What If was always an anthology. It was always meant to be an anthology. It's not supposed to have these. And yeah, like from season 1, it was always that way, where they brought in all the characters, like they introduced all these characters, and at the end of the season bring them all back. They did that for season 2. They didn't do it for season 3, but they had the through storyline about the Watcher being hunted down by the other Watchers, and it's not supposed to be like a serialized show. It's supposed to be episodic. An anthology. That's what I'm looking for. All right, so that's all I have to say about that one. So let's move on to the next show. I was going to talk about Squid Game season 2. Hold on. There we go. Oh. Can't get out of the way. There we are. Microphone's in the way. Funny thing about this one, and again, we're doing spoilers for all these, but funny thing about this one is I like this season 2 just as much as season 1, and I feel like because season 1, in my humble opinion, was overrated. It wasn't really nearly as good as people said it was, and I had a lot of issues with it. Some of it sounded like really cheesy. And with season 2, I had less issues with it. Like, it seemed like a more cohesive more believable story without some ridiculous turns and whatnot. And I think the through storyline with sorry, I can't remember the name of any of these characters, but the main guy, the through storyline with him, and the what they call, I can't even remember what they called him, like the evil masked dude who actually joined the games as number one. And it seems like I was thinking like he should have caught on to the fact that this was one of the rich people pretending to be in the game, because the last time it was number one. And I heard like the metaphor for that is supposed to, the reason why he's number one is the top 1%. Hey, get it? I guess. But anyway, like I feel like he should have caught on to that. But no, I still thought that the through storyline with him, sort of that dynamic that the two of them had, and how the evil dude was trying to like manipulate him, and it's interesting, like going back and watching the last few episodes after hearing some people talk about it, that there's specific parts that where evil dude is trying to sort of challenge main character guy to sort of make him question like his whole thing about, oh, we're gonna have to sacrifice, some people need to be sacrificed in order for the greater good, which is kind of him being like, because that's what we're fucking doing, and trying to like collapse his argument. And so it was very interesting, like, and I love the first couple episodes, seeing him trying to hunt them down and shit, and seeing how how haunted he has become by this. And at first when I saw season one, I was pissed off at the ending that he didn't get on the plane and leave, and I was like, oh, this is bullshit. They could have ended the story there, but they want to stretch it out for season two. But actually, after having seen season two, I now changed my mind about that, because actually I think it's more interesting for his character, and it does make sense that he's too haunted by everything, that he's not just going to go live happily ever after in America and let these fuckers get away with it, that he'd be consumed by trying to stop them. And the fact that they ended up doing like another Squid Game, like he's in Squid Game 2 or what, the next annual one, and that they changed up the games. Like I saw that one coming. And I knew, especially the way he was talking, like, this is what the next game's going to be, and so this is what we need to do. And like I knew they were going to change up the games as soon as he said that. Yeah, so, but I was skeptical about them doing the same thing over again, but they actually made it more fresh and interesting. And here they had more. I didn't notice this again until someone pointed out, but the whole thing about how they put the people who want to go home had the circles on their shirts, and the ones that didn't want to go home had the X's, the red X's, and this sort of started to create like a divide, and how that's kind of like an analogy. And I don't know, this is a Korean show, so I don't know exactly how this is in Korea and how the culture is over there, and the elections and whatnot. But to me, it's looking at it as an American, it seems like a clear divide between like, Republicans and Democrats, or liberals and conservatives, and they even had blue and red, and how they're like that they're start to other each other, and the two groups start to like band together and like other them and be like, oh, they're the bad people. That was really interesting. I did really like that dynamic. Now, a lot of people had an issue with the fact that it just ended like kind of mid-story, and that they're pretty much like splitting this story between season 2 and 3. That did surprise me. Like when I read there were 7 episodes, and when I got like right before I watched episode 7, I'm like, there can't only be 7 episodes. And I looked it up and Googled it. I'm like, are you sure there's only 7 episodes? Like, I thought maybe that they were doing this thing that Stranger Things did last season. What Stranger Things did is they released the whole season except for the finale, and then they released the finale like a couple months later or something like that. So they like split the season, and I thought, oh, maybe they're doing that, but no, they're just saving everything for season 3. Um, and I know a lot of people had like a huge issue with that, but I didn't really mind it. The more I thought about it, because I feel like the season did have a definitive ending. Unlike I was just complaining about these other shows that seem to end without resolving. Whereas because it had a lot of these characters like his best friend and other people died, and the dude who was the number one dude who was pretending to be in that thing ended up leaving and going back. So I feel like um yeah, I feel like that it did have a thematic ending. Now, it did leave a lot of cliffhangers. Like, they're still mid Squid Games. They didn't finish the games. And they revealed that the dude on the fishing boat was a spy. And so I'm very interested in that. And so, but I see it as kind of more along the lines of a normal cliffhanger that a TV season would do. And so I'm actually don't have an issue with that. So hello to Tyler Cease in the chat. Hello, how's it going? Have you talked about Skeleton Crew yet? Have a question about the show? Can you answer it when you get to that topic? How would you rank the live action Star Wars shows? So I have already talked about Skeleton Crew. Unfortunately, you did. You're late. You missed it, but I will answer your question. Hold on, let me get the right background so I can go back to it. There we go. All right. So how would I rank the live action Star Wars shows? Well, you got to remind me, like, which ones. There's The Mandalorian. There's Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, Acolyte. You said live action, right? Yeah. So that's it, right? Those are the live action ones. Am I missing one? Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, and Acolyte. Like, I feel like I'm missing one. Can someone tell me if I'm missing? I don't know. I'll rank those 5, and someone else will tell me if I'm missing one, and I'll throw it in there. So from those 5, well, Boba Fett is the last one. That's the worst one, easily. That's an easy choice. And then the next one after Boba Fett would probably be this one, Skeleton Crew, because I was so damn disappointed by the ending. And then not too far ahead of that would be the Acolyte, because I was also disappointed in that. That also ended before really resolving anything. And it's hard to compare The Mandalorian to Ahsoka, because Mandalorian has 3 seasons and Ahsoka only has 1. But if I had to, I'd definitely put Ahsoka as number 1. That was my favorite. I loved Ahsoka. I was a huge fan of Rebel. Well, I just watched Rebels and Clone Wars, but I was a huge fan of that character from that show, and it resolved the situation of Rebels, which I love that show. And I just thought that was like, the characters were great. Like that one episode with Anakin was fucking amazing. I think it was a masterpiece. One of the best. Oh, I know what show I'm forgetting. Obi-Wan. Knew there was another fucking one. Obi-Wan. Okay, so Boba Fett's still the worst. Then Skeleton Crew. Then Acolyte. Then Obi-Wan. And then, right? Yeah, and then Mandalorian. Then Skeleton Crew. So it's actually 3 episodes, 3 shows I really don't like. And then Obi-Wan, I think, is okay. And Mandalorian's pretty good. That had a problem, especially See, it got better in season 2. I really liked season 2 and 3. I was a staunch defender of season 3 when everyone was shitting on it. I still think season 3 was way better than season 1. Like, I think season 1 was super overrated. It was just a bunch. They're just doing the Seven Samurai storyline every fucking episode and going off on irrelevant adventures instead of getting to the main fucking story about Grogu. Now, every season kind of has episodes like that kind of push it back and delay, but I think season 2 was the best for me. I love the finale of season 2. But anyway, so Ahsoka, like, I thought was amazing up until the last 3 episodes where they kind of, again, fumbled things by not resolving anything, and then one of their fucking main cast members died, and now they're screwed, and they have to. Well, they recast them as the Hound, apparently. So yeah, so that I hope that answers your question, Tyler, and I hope I'm not forgetting another live action Star Wars show. Might be, but you have to tell me in the chat if that's the case. Anyway, okay, so let me move on because I was done talking about Squid Game anyway. So, what show we're up to next? Let's see. Silo. Is that? Yeah, there we are. Can't really see her that well. Silo. So I just watched both seasons of Silo for the first time because I usually don't have Apple Plus because I was like boycotting it because I'm sick of there being way too many fucking way too many fucking streaming platforms, and I was just like, does this one really need to fucking exist? It's just like a greedy corporation wanting to get in on the action. Although, to be fair, streaming services actually tend to lose money rather than make it, but they want to sort of boost their brand, I suppose. But anyway, but I watched Severance when that came out because I saw the first couple episodes on the plane and I was hooked, and I was like, wow, fuck. I had to get it for that, but then I only had it for like a week for the free trial and didn't cancel it because I just watched the rest of Severance because it was already out. But, I wanted to watch season 2 of Severance as it aired, so I'm going to have Apple Plus for like a couple months. So, it's time enough to watch some of these other shows I hear people talking about. So I checked out Silo, and I was fucking hooked. I will say before I get into spoilers that this is probably my new favorite show. I don't know, like it's kind of neck and neck with Severance because I fucking love Severance, but I don't know, it just remains to be seen how good season 2 is going to be. I think it's shaking. I had my doubts about season 2 because I've heard about a lot of behind the scenes problems. Like, it took it several years to get going because apparently the showrunners were like had a huge feud and they couldn't agree on the direction. So that made me worried that season 2 wasn't going to be good, but it's shaping out to be good. But anyway, so it's hard for me to compare Silo to Severance, but I will say that Silo is my new favorite show. I would give season 2 in particular a 10 out of 10. I think it's going to be a shoe-in for number 1 in my top 10 shows this year, although again it's only January, so you never know, like something else could come out in that time that could beat it out. But the funny thing is because now I'm getting into spoilers, by the way. The funny thing is that Silo had me hooked. Like the first couple episodes in season 1 with the sheriff and his wife, having the flashbacks about his wife, and then him going out to follow her, and it, is leaving the question open. Like, is it really dead outside? Is the thing an illusion? Are they lying to each other? And then you introduce the character of Juliet, who's the I want to say, I was gonna say grounder, but that's from the 100. No, it's a mechanical, I guess. It's not a belter either. It kind of reminded me of belters, the mechanicals in this show. But yeah, so and how there's like the Silo is basically like an authoritarian dictatorship, and it's very sort of Orwellian, and like no one's allowed to talk about anything in the history or the past, and they have these secret police that they call judicial. And it's interesting because you think it's all this Judge Meadows pulling the strings, but you find out that she's just a figurehead. In fact, in season 2, they kind of make it clear that whoever they make judge is kind of someone they just want to go away. They like promote them, like kick them upstairs, or what? I can't remember what the saying is, but and that because they do that to Sims when Sims pisses off. Bernard, that's his name. Main evil dude. Yeah, it's funny because like I didn't see it coming that Bernard was um, in charge of everything. Like that's kind of surprised me at the end of season 1 when they revealed that. But anyway, so it's funny because I watched both seasons. I binged them both together. Uh, and apparently I just finished watching season 2 right in time, right as the last episode aired. Like it aired at midnight, and I was watching at like 3 a.m. So I just got there in time, where I didn't have to wait. Um, but from what I have heard, like I went online and watched other reviews and hear other people talk about it. A lot of people were saying that they thought season 2 was boring. Um, and and not as good as season 1, and I totally like couldn't possibly disagree with that more. I liked season 2 better. I thought season 2 was better. Yeah, I mean, I can understand why people might say that because they had a storyline with Juliet going into the other Silo 17, and how she was just fumbling around by herself or talking to Solo um, for a bit. Anyone like when Solo was telling his backstory about how he got his name Solo? Did anyone else think of think of Star Wars? Think of the Solo movie and like, so you're alone, Solo. Like that's what I thought of. But anyway, turns out that it wasn't really him. Anyway, it was just told someone else's identity. But regardless, like, yeah, no. So I could see how some people could find it a little boring. Um, but for me, I thought it was way more interesting because I thought the storyline with Juliet and the Silo 17 was interesting enough, and I think Steve Zahn did an amazing job as Solo. And other people were complaining that they kept like she had a suit and she was going to go back to her silo, but they kept pushing it back and delaying, and something else would happen to delay it, and something else would happen. And I might have had that attitude if I had watched it weekly, so I can kind of understand how people who were watching it weekly would, oh no, now she's not getting it. But binge watching it, I kind of like knew that she wouldn't go back to the silo until the finale, so I wasn't surprised. And I actually kind of liked the delays because I liked the introducing that family of people and Eater, or what they called her, and their interactions. I was really interested in that. But for me, where the season was really at was in Silo 18, in the main silo. And apparently some people weren't as interested in that because Juliet wasn't there. But yeah, I like Juliet. She was really amazing in season 1. But I don't think she's the whole show. I think the other characters are interesting enough, like the Knox and Shirley and Walker, or just call her Walk. And yeah, and the Sims and his wife, who turned out to be a bit more powerful than he is, and yeah, the storyline they did with Lucas this season was fucking amazing. That's what blew me away. So what really has me interested in the show, why I love season 2, well, for several reasons. For one, season 2 got more into the mythology of the silos. It got more into the mystery, the backstory, and when they introduced the concept of the weird algorithm, like at the end, that was talking to Lucas in the tunnel, like that fucking blew my mind. Like this show reminds me of Lost, like in the best way possible, and I think it's better than Lost because it seems like because it's based off of books that actually know what they're doing and they're not just making bullshit up like Lost was. And but I had that same sort of feeling of like mystery, of deepening the mystery. And yeah, I fucking love that. And on top of that, like the storyline with the mechanicals doing their rebellion, I thought was way more interesting than like the murder mystery or whatever they were doing in season one. Like I was so hooked because this is what they were teasing. In season one, they were teasing apparently there's a formula and something happens, then there's going to be a rebellion. And I love how the juxtaposition of Juliet uh, uncovering another silo where the rebellion already happened and everyone died, and then you see it go back to our silo and you see that same sort of scenario starting to build and build. And I thought that was fucking amazing storytelling. Like that whole like I did a live discussion you can check out all on Silo season 2. I have, yeah, I have a link up in my channel, but it was over on Darren's channel. I did I did the discussion with Darren and Rob. And yeah, I would say, I think it's fair to say that I was the more positive on this season out of the three. Rob in particular was kind of down on the Silo 18 storyline. He said he didn't find any of the characters interesting and thought it was predictable. And yeah, I just, that's wow, that opinion just blew my mind. Like I just couldn't disagree more with them. That like I had the exact opposite. Like when Darian was asking me like, oh, what was your favorite storyline or what was your favorite character, and I'm like, all of them. Like all of them. I liked it all. I thought all of the characters were really fascinating, well fleshed out characters, and I was so invested in all of the storylines. Like there was no boring part. Whereas season one did dip a little bit in the middle of the season, whereas I felt season two did not. Even though some people thought that the Juliet storyline stretched, I didn't have an issue with it, and I thought the Silo 18 was even more interesting. Like I was hooked. And yeah, that big revelation. They still have some mysteries about what did Lucas whisper to Bernard and shit like that, and what's the deal with the algorithm? And apparently, there's a silo that has the safeguard that's going to poison everyone. From what I got out of it is that, and the Silo 17, that because I think it was Solo was saying that everyone was alive when they went to the surface, so they didn't die immediately. But eventually they said the winds changed, but we don't know exactly what that means. So what I gathered is that outside is not poisonous, but the people who are in the main silo that control all the 50 silos, they don't want people leaving and they don't want rebellions. And when they see that starting to happen, then they'll poison everyone. And because they're the ones that they poisoned everyone once they were up on the surface because they were pissed off at them leaving. And so Juliet is trying to find a way to stop the safeguard from happening, and she's come back to save anyone. I did love the fact how they were actually gonna go out to the surface despite what Mechanical didn't want them to. Like Knox and the other people were trying to stop them, but they were outnumbered and they were going to push their way to the surface. But Juliet came back just in time with the note saying, not safe, don't go out. You know, my dad watched this recently too, and he was really bothered by the fact that they had the cliffhanger of the fire burning Bernard and Juliet. I was kind of bothered by that too. Like I thought it was unnecessary, but I'm not as bothered by it. Like it was kind of a deal breaker for him. Like he was really upset by it. But I was like, like yeah, she's gonna survive because she's wearing a fire suit, and there was a reason. It was like a Chekhov's gun situation. Like there was a reason why she had to put on the fire suit and why they brought it in, because that's gonna protect her. Now, Bernard, on the other hand, apparently is likely to die, but That's not guaranteed. And then they had that scene at the end with the flashback, which I thought was fucking amazing. That's hinting at, that's really has me excited for season 3. It just, what I thought when I was watching that is, fuck them for making me wait a year. I had to wait a whole year. It kind of reminded me of like the season 2 finale of Lost that had that hinted at like Penny being on the outside, but they never really paid that off. Not in a satisfying way anyway. Whereas this, as I said, is based off of books, and so they're very hinting at that they will, in fact, pay it off. But yeah, so this is my new favorite show, Silo. Fucking love it. 10 out of 10. Anyway, all right. So let's move on. What are we up to now? So I have a few more observations about Section 31 that that I forgot to make in my video review. One thing that I wanted to mention is the music, because, and I looked up and apparently the composer was the same one who did the music for Picard season 3, which kind of makes sense to me, because the one thing I noticed about this music, like as I was watching the movie, I was like, hey, did they just take the music from Star Trek First Contact? Because it had that same dun 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 dun, the same exact thing, but then the music gets different from there. Like then but it has that same like beat, but then it gets a little different. And that's what I noticed about Picard season 3 soundtrack, is that they were doing the same thing with like Star Trek 2 music. They would, or all these movies, they would just take bits of it and cut, because yeah, the whole thing of Star Trek 3 was just taking bits of Star Trek movies and copying them. But Picard season 3. Did I say Star Trek 3? No, Picard season 3. But anyway, the Section 31, yeah, the music I noticed was they were just copying. I was like, this is they're just copying from the First Contact music. But the other thing I was going to say about Section 31 is that I'm actually really disappointed. I'm really sad. I'm don't really feel like piling on and being like, oh, what a piece of shit, because I wanted it to be good. Like, and it's just too obvious that it's not good. And I hope that Paramount learns the right lesson from this. And I hope they don't, especially now that they're going to have new owners, I hope they don't take this as, oh, well, that didn't work, so let's not do any more Star Trek movies. No, do more Star Trek movies. I don't know why they didn't fucking just do the Khan one that Nicholas Meyer wanted to do. Like, Nicholas Meyer is proven great Star Trek director. Why would they turn him down? But the other one, like the lesson I think they should take is whatever creative team that they had do this, which seemed to be the same sort of creative team that was responsible for parts of Discovery, don't use them again. Especially that director guy who, as I talked about, he's the one in Discovery that did the spinning camera. And the directing was terrible in this movie. It's like, don't use him. Get different writers. Get like writers who are more tuned to classic Trek, or people who worked on Strange New Worlds, and and I'm not really opposed to like the concept of this, of having a Section 31, but this wasn't really Section 31. As I said, it was just like a mercenary group. And you should have just called it something else. But if you want to do a Section 31 movie, like, it should be like ominous and creepy and explore the moral complexities of Section 31 and maybe some of the history of it, and make it be more like actually Section 31, which wasn't a branch of Starfleet. It was its own autonomous organization that didn't answer to Starfleet at all. Also, if you want to do like a prequel, this is what I'd rather they do, like something set in a lost era. with Rachel, a young Rachel Garrett, 100%. But this is not it. Like, and I've heard other reviews talking about how it's not really like this could have been set in any time period. There wasn't. It was just fun little Easter eggs. Oh, look at this Easter egg and look at this reference. Isn't this cool? Look, we're Star Trek because we're throwing in all these references and Easter eggs. Like that's not really what makes you Star Trek. But anyway, I thought there was something else I forgot to say about this, but I can't remember it now. But anyway, so let me move on to the final topic of the evening. Severance, brought it up several times. So the first two episodes of season 2, and again, I'm going full on spoilers. God, yeah, this show is amazing. It is really good. And now, so the first two episodes did a really interesting format where the first episode is all innies and the second episode is all outies, which I don't know if I predicted this exactly, but I kind of thought they would do something like this. Like, I kind of thought that the first episode would not give us a lot of answers, that it would withhold, some information about the exact like fallback or fallout of what happened in the season 1 finale. Which, yeah, by the way, I had to wait like several years, like 3 years for it. So I wasn't too surprised about that there was fallout, that they spread it out and didn't totally tell us. And then in episode 1, and people were pointing this out, that some of the stuff that Milchek was telling Mark was probably lying. He was probably lying, and he's an unreliable narrator. And so we find out in this episode that is very true, that he's lying because he said it was 5 months since the last time he went to work, and that they changed the company and they did this huge thing and they were celebrated or whatever, and he had this fake newspaper. So I knew that some of his stuff, definitely could tell he was lying about some of it, but I was actually surprised to learn that that it had only been 2 days and not 5 months. I thought the 5 months thing was true, and I thought there had been a big controversy because with what Heliar did, and also Mark talking to his sister, and she was talking about, oh, we should go to the media about this. So I thought, oh, they did that and they're just going to skip ahead to them doing that. But apparently none of that actually happened. Milchek was just talking out of his ass. But here's the thought I had. So that video and they reformed the break room and changed everything and moved everything around. They did that all in one weekend. And that video that they put up about how all the outies are celebrated and there's new reforms and Lumen cares, they made that in a weekend. That's pretty fucking fast work. Well, it was more than just a weekend because they didn't see the video until later in the week. So they had a week to make it, but still. But we learned a couple of really interesting tidbits in this last episode. One is that they need Mark, that he's vital to their work. So they fired Irving and God, why the fuck am I blanking on the other guys? And Dylan. They fired Irving and Dylan because they're not required. And of course, Helly is actually Helena. Is the daughter of the CEO, so they don't really have to fire her. But so they fired the other ones involved. But for some reason they absolutely needed Mark, and so I get that the reason why they're doing this whole Lumen cares and we're reformed and we're good now, and lying to the innie Mark S about, oh, there was a big parade and you were successful and you were awesome and we're changed now, that they're just doing that to keep him there. to keep him happy because they want him to keep working. The other ones apparently are um, what it was the expendable. That's where I'm looking for. Um, but because Mark S wouldn't work and he was unhappy and he refused to work unless he had his own old team back, so then that convinced that he was so apparently important that they need him working that they went out of their way to bring the team back. So then they hired Irving and they hired Dylan. Yeah, the whole thing with this scene with Dylan where he interviewed at another job about doors, that was really interesting. It's this kind of weird shit that the show is known for, and how it was so interesting how the guy who was interviewing him looked exactly like him, and they made a point of like the way they shot it to emphasize that they looked like very similar. But and of course he like blew up when he heard that he had a severed job, and he's like, no, we don't like your kind or whatever, you're not the right type of person for us here. And so it does show how difficult it would be for a severed employee to find another job, which is part of the reason why they wouldn't leave. So yeah, that was an interesting tidbit about that. But yeah, so I heard a theory about why Mark is so important to them. And I love, well, before I get to the theory, I did love the scene with Milchek going to his house and convincing him, like, we'll give you this raise and we'll give you all this other stuff. And then sort of gets into, the reason why you said you want, because your wife's death. And he sort of said, oh, and he's happy. He's in love. Not really happy. No, he's not really happy down there. And that's what he told his sister when she spoke to him. And by the way, I like how Devin, I think her name is, how she was very sort of hostile towards Milchek, like, because and that's why I was surprised, like, they didn't talk more about her going to the media and shit about it. But the Audi Mark seemed like they only seemed interested in talking about whether or not they meant she's alive, meant Gemma. I like how they tried to dismiss it. Oh, hey, Fiona, how's it going? But anyway, I like how they tried to dismiss him saying that she's alive. Like, oh, he was obviously talking about the baby. And I think Devin knows that's bullshit and just going along with it just to be agreeable. But I think she definitely knew that was bullshit. But yeah, it was interesting because we hear Audi Mark say, I saw her body, which, the plot thickens on this one. So now I'll get to the theory. The theory I heard, because at the end of episode 1, we see, with the stuff that Mark S is working on, we see a brief screenshot that shows a picture of Miss Casey and the it's called a Cold Harbor or whatever. And in this episode, they say, oh, we need Mark to, once he completes Cold Harbor, we can, done. So I heard a theory that Lumen is working on immortality. They're trying to create immortality. And there's a lot of apparently hints on that. And part of what they're doing is trying to clone people and put like someone's consciousness into a clone body or something. And so the theory is that they're doing that with Mark's wife, Gemma, that she did die, but they're trying to like revive her in a way through a clone. And by reinstating her or duplicating her consciousness or reinstating it. And that the things that they're doing, the work that they're doing with the numbers and how there's like scary numbers or there's happy numbers and stuff, that's the kind of constructing her consciousness or her mind. And that's why they need Mark to do it, because it was his wife, so he's the most familiar with her and he would know best about her and how to do it. And so that's why he's that's why they need him. They don't really need the others, but they want to make him happy, so they brought the others back. So he's like super vital. And apparently, just for Cold Harbor. So Cold Harbor, I think, is the resurrection of Gemma, but their ultimate goal is to create immortality. But for this one project, they need Marquez, and once they're done with the project, then they can move on. So that's my theory. Or not my theory. I didn't come up with it, but that's a theory I heard that I liked. That I think, oh yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I kind of agree with that. And there are other theories like the Mrs. Hong, the child supervisor, that's actually a clone, another clone version of Gemma. I don't know if I agree with that, because if they already have a clone of Gemma, then why would they need Mark S to complete this one? So I don't know if I buy that theory. And well, of course, the well-known theory that Heliar is actually Helena, that's actually her outie, and that she's not having her chip activated when she goes to work, and she's keeping her personality and posing as Heliar. I wasn't on board with that theory at first, but then after watching, like, the more I thought about it and watching this episode, I was like, now I'm totally convinced that's the case. Because this episode, we see her watching video of, Heliar and Mark S inside and like studying it. So it seems like she is kind of studying it to try to act like her and to so she can impersonate her, and so she knows exactly what she's getting into. Yeah, so I think that's totally the case. I'm like 100% certain about that one. But the whole thing about the clones, I'm a bit more iffy about it, but that's definitely where I'm leading. And that's why they have goats, because they're cloning the goats just like they clone sheep in real life. Yeah, and that's what the deal with the goats is, because they're just different versions, because the whole thing is about, cloning and creating immortality. But we'll see. I don't know if they'll go in that sci-fi of a direction. And that, yeah. And I think that ties into why Miss Cobell acted the way she did when Mark confronted her about, do you know something about Jim, and how she freaked out and started yelling because she knew that, and she felt guilty about the fact. And I rewatched season 1 in preparation of this, and there's even a scene where Milchek and Miss Colbo are talking to each other, and they're like, when Mark was interacting with Miss Casey, he's like, oh, you think he knows or whatnot, and oh, he can't know, but there has to be connection. So I'm really liking that theory because that would seem to, because otherwise I don't know why Mark S would be so important, why they need him so much and they don't need the others. Oh, the other important thing before I get off Severance, which is my last topic of the night, but the other important thing I want to mention is Irving, and how there's definitely a deeper mystery that I hope they reveal before the end of the season. Because I know that there's a big I think there's an Irving episode. I would bet you anything there's going to be an Irving episode coming up where we go back and we see things from his perspective or his Audi's perspective. Because there's definitely something going on. So first of all, they didn't show us what happened after at the end of the events of season 1 finale, when he was banging the wall going, Bert, and then this episode we see Bert following him, and then we see him on the phone. Now I couldn't actually hear this, I had the subtitles on, so I read what he said. But if I had missed it, there's tons of videos that explained what he said. So if you watch any of those videos, you saw it. But he said something like, oh, I understand why you're not picking up the phone, but I wanted to tell you that my innie got the message. So I think that Irving is working with that same sort of person who, reintegrated Petey, that Mark met in the previous season, who killed the security guy, because she's still around. We hadn't seen her since she did that in season 1. And apparently they showed a brief clip of her in the trailer, so she's going to be in this season. So, theory is that Irving is working with her, because we know that Irving, the Addy, had all the like addresses of and a map of people who worked there, and he's painting paintings about this dark hallway. And so there's definitely something going on with him. And yeah, like what, this is really lost. Like, it feels like lost there, dropping hints. Like, what is this message he's talking about that is any got? And also, he lied to Milchek when Milchek said, "Oh, anything happened this night?" He's like, "No, I was at home watching TV, or whatever." Oh, hey Norman, how's it going? Just dropping in to say hi. Well, hello, how's it going? If you haven't seen Severance, might not want to stay. but anyway, so yeah, he lied to Milchek about where he was. So, and I think there's a reason for that. And so you do wonder if something happened between him and Bert, and what happened. And is he aware that his Annie took over? I'm sure he is aware that his Annie took over for a bit. And maybe that was part of the plan somehow. If he's working with that same lady, because that lady was the one who gave Mark the security card, which is what allowed them to use the overtime protocol in the first place. So maybe it was all part of a larger plan. So Norman in the chat, I've heard good things about it. I take it it's worth seeing. It's on the Apple streaming channel, which I don't subscribe, right? Yes, it is. But I would recommend getting the Apple streaming channel just for this show, and Silo, which I talked about earlier. They're both amazing shows. I'm just going to watch this and then get rid of the Apple Plus. So you could, you can even wait till season 2 is finished and get it for a week and watch them all, binge them all. But anyway, yeah, highly recommend. But yeah, so what is the deal with Irving? Like, so I think we might be getting an episode about him, explaining what's going on and getting his backstory. So this, deepens the mystery. So yeah, very, very interested in what's going on. Yes, that's pretty much all I gotta say about Severance so far. So that's it. That's it. Talked about all the shows I wanted to talk about. Didn't really have all that much interaction in the chat. If anyone else didn't seem to have any questions about anything, so I'm gonna go ahead and take off now. Maybe one of these days I'll come back and do a general topic live chat like my sister does every once in a while, so where we can just shoot the shit and talk about whatever bullshit you all want to talk about. But yeah, that's all I got on these shows. Yeah. Oh, Norma says come back later, but I was ending it anyway. You could have stuck around. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, that's all that's gone on with me. These shows, you can got live streams coming up next Monday night, February 3rd. I'll be doing my top 10, or not mine, but your top 10 best episodes and worst episodes of Star Trek Next Generation. So if you have not given your top 10 yet, please do so before February 1st. Next Saturday, I believe, is the deadline. Please put in your top 10 best episodes and worst episodes of Star Trek Next Generation. I was hoping to get more entries than I got for the original series, but I got 16 for the original series, and so far only at 13. So we need more. I'm hoping that there's a few people who are waiting for the last second, like there was last time when I did 2S. I still haven't gotten a top 10 list from my sister. I guess she said I could always just watch her videos and take it from there. But she said she went into adjusting. So I'll just remind her, like, hey, we still got until Monday, so you still have time. Or not Monday, Saturday. You still have time. So, yeah, be sure to submit your top 10 best episodes, top 10 worst episodes, Star Trek Next Generation, if you haven't already. And, of course, I'll be back later in February with my number 2 favorite episode of the entire franchise. That sort of thing. And in the meantime, yeah, just finishing up the coverage of TNG and covering Deep Space Nine. So, yeah, keep on my channel for that. And as I said, once Severance Season 2 finishes, I'll be doing a video review for that. So thanks, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Those to stick around. Thanks so much. And we'll see you next time.